Look out, it is CouchCube talking about local co-op video games. I'm doing my top puzzler list, not my most subversive genre. I got top roguelikes, top shooter campaigns, top shoot 'em ups, top beat 'em ups, top side-scrolling platformers, top ARPGs that aren't Diablo 4.
Tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rabbits, you name it!
This list is pretty ranked, and I have gone for at least 10. I'm going to start with a game called Castles, which is quite strange in its premise. You're actually working together to build these sections of floor that gets you higher up, and you need various objects that will interchange. The system will ask you to get a set of blocks in and encompass winning an object. You also get a mole that comes up and totally ruins your day, so there's quite a lot of communication needed here. Think noughts and crosses, but with a constantly changing objective, and technically being timed, because you do need to get stuff done before the mole appears, ruins things, and you've got to find these hammers, or mallets rather, to actually get rid of the damn thing. Major points scored for having a versus mode. 2 sets of towers, you're racing against each other to get the objects that are mentioned in the middle. Loads can happen. You can force blocks to fall on the other player, and I didn't mention that you do die if you're underneath one of the falling sections. Not a bad game this at all. God, Coop, have you gone full Fisher Price with your games? I mean, what's your demographic now? 5+? That's one of my canonising intros from the first time I spoke about this game. It is really funny, and what should have gone in here is a game called Chariot, which I recently spoke about on a hidden gems list and really don't want to repeat, so hop on over to that. But they're kind of the same premise, with being integrally joined to each other or an object, and having you make your way through a series of obstacles. But this one's got the sort of sausage dog cuteness, a lot of nice noises, and a very child-friendly aesthetic. It should still be knocking around on Game Pass, if my memory serves me correctly, and I wanted to include a few sort of accessible titles for the younger ones, but you're still laughing quite a lot. And the puzzles, they are not easy. Things get very advanced, and it's multi-tiered as well. You're dealing with gravity. Fall damage is a thing, and so clinging onto the cliff edge whilst the other half of the dog is dangling for dear life, that can supply a bit of amusement. There's just not enough machine guns in it, as far as I'm concerned. Wilmots Warehouse, one of the weirder games on the list. It involves working in a warehouse, packaging things that are coordinated, and sort of working against a timer, but always dealing a little bit like the Castles game with a changing problem. You've got people who are needing various selections of items, so you're stacking and putting everything around. It's got this just strange, calming aspect to it. It's not that urgent a puzzle game, but it's also a proper head scratcher. Things get very advanced. This one's a bit of a sleeper hit as well. Don't see it on a lot of other lists. If it was called Gary Wilmots Warehouse, it would have been a little bit funnier. Only blokes of a certain age and nationality will get that joke, and there is no PvP, unfortunately. But what it lacks in that direction, it more than makes up for in mission complication. Things get really good with later game. Okay, it's our first dynamic split. If you know, you know. Pikuniku is the first of our side-scrolling puzzlers, and it's a great little game this, on all platforms, I think even the Switch, and it boasts a hell of a lot of local candidates, more than 4. I've never tested that. Had the game for years. I think it's actually also available on Game Pass still. It's a very cool, colourful, and interesting platforming game in its own right, let alone its local co-op capabilities. It's also got some brilliant music, and I love the cleanness of the design with it all. It's very easy to read what's going on the screen, and people gravitate to it. If you're playing it in a room and you can hear this game going on, you immediately want to get involved. It's a lot of fun. I was supposed to be giving all these games a number out of 10 for how tough the puzzles were. The ones we've had so far are pretty medium, but with this, it sort of takes it up another notch because it's got very complicated switch systems in it. You will be looking at doors on the other side of the map, and because of that dynamic split, the other player can just wander off and take care of another complicated task that's attached to something even more complicated over on the other player's screen. I thought you said you weren't doing any recent repeats. Well, I've got to apologise for this one. Human Fallflat has had a constant injection of really cool new levels. I bill it as the thinking man's gang beast because of these hold mechanics, and a lot of the objects can be pushed and pulled. Your arenas are quite big and they're quite dramatic. There's one with like a crashed train in it. You can go to Halloween themed levels now. There's a lot of them. So I wanted to just put it in, make sure that everybody remembers this and goes back to it if you remotely enjoyed it a few years ago, because there's been quite a lot of new content put in. So I don't want to give it too much airtime. There are some more interesting games coming up, but I just do distinctly remember this being one of the strongest puzzles I'd played way back on its initial release date, and remember all of that DLC mentions all been free, so the updates just don't cost anything. That is worth something. It's time to connect with the Tetris Effect, and this game is incredible with its different modes that it offers you for a Tetris game. Nothing really comes close to the level of white-knuckle puzzling that the Tetris series has given us over the last 30 years. Fuck me. Probably longer than that, thinking about it, but there's a very dodgy thing happening with two Tetris games that are out at the moment. This one that we're looking at, the Tetris Effect, is a brilliant scorer on co-op gameplay. There's a weird system with a boss and you can have AI players involved, 4 people, but it's also got a cracking PvP mode that's very easy to access and is hours and hours of fun. Obviously, playing Tetris against someone else and on a singular screen so you can see what's going on their side is priceless. Tetris 99 monetizes the local co-op PvP. It knows that's the cool part of Tetris. It is an unforgivable move, and I got frog marched into it because I wanted to play it with a bunch of us, and I had to then go into the store, open it up as a mode. Having said that, the game is free off the peg, but the Tetris Effect, connect with the Tetris Connect Effect, is the way forward. It's a brilliant local co-op game. Teased her at the beginning, we have got Catherine. This one's a little bit of a strange case. This is the game Catherine, which is kind of like a text-based story game from Atlas involving a crazy love life depiction, but there's a separate puzzle versus mode, and we went straight to versus. I'm not sure if there's a co-op, but it's involving going up a tower, which does appear in main game, but they've sort of fleshed it out and made it into this own puzzle section. I told you it was weird.
Round 1. Ready? Go!
You're in like this hellish, macabre, nightmare fuel death race, and you can choose different characters. There's even the Persona crew in here, but it strangely works. You can see the finish line over on that map on the left, and pulling out special power-ups and running the other person off screen is so much fun, but the strategy and also getting to know your tower and pulling out blocks and realizing some of the drops aren't always a plus point, reading what the other player's doing, and also seeing the deaths. The deaths are horrendous.
Good luck to both of you.
This isn't something I'd march out and buy just for this mode, but if you own this and probably didn't realise that it's got a nice little local co-op puzzler in it, and it is not a crap one, then it might be worth sort of reinstalling. Plus that Catherine's Body Special Edition is going pretty cheap as well, and a lot of those Atlas games, the new Personas out, they're getting quite sought after. If you see this physical, I would probably snap it up. It's just a gorgeous looking game with the pinks and the art and hot girls. Not sure if you remember them.
Player 2 wins.
Okay, it's back to the umbilical attachment model, and we're looking at Unravelled 2, an incredible game that came out very strong with its original, but this has just been worked on. Beautiful borrowers like sized graphics. You feel like you're just scurrying around A real location, amazing foliage, rooftops, atmosphere, and just some brilliant puzzles. As I say, the genre is not huge with me, but this one, the swinging around, grabbing onto stuff, communicating, such a strong little game. No sequel, which is a little bit strange, and I would also put this in the Chariot bracket. This, Phogs, and Chariot are kind of like the umbilical trilogy. Putting this in, I know, is sailing a little bit close to the wind. This is Spiritfarer. I had someone in the comments the other day, they watched a video I put out called Figment 2. Again, slightly local co-op puzzler, but not worthy of making it on the list with this lot. They were talking about how they enjoyed the passive addition of the second player, i.e. they didn't have loads to do and they supported on various tasks and puzzles that came up in the game. And I put them over to Child of Light, which is technically a turn-based JRPG, but this, if you're listening, is really perfect as a companion piece to that Figment game. I would bill it as a story-based puzzler. There is some arcade action in here. It's quite a well-rounded local co-op game, giving you a mountain of characters and dialogues and tasks. There's also a lot of resource management and gathering in it, so it is stretching the brief massively. But I love it, and it's a perfect passive platforming game to play with someone who's into the puzzle, slightly more laid-back genre. Alright, I think we're in the top 3 territory, I think, and this might have less than 10 or more than 10 in it. I always lose count halfway through the video. 4-player, cannot believe I did not put Heave Ho on my 4-player list. Wow, that would be an absolute ball. It's a classic grabber with independent controls depending on which arm you want to grab hold or let go of. It's also got quite advanced swing mechanics. The communication doesn't need to exist, and there is some PvP sections to it, but it's just getting through the levels and helping your buddy out or not, and seeing the deaths, the little noises, what they come up with the level design also. And when you get really good at it, you start getting confident, coming out with full chimpanzee-like moves. There is something really derpy about it, right? The music, the noises, the animations, the way it looks, it's a very attractive feel. And when you're deep in thought trying to work out a puzzle that involves you having to link midair with your buddy to get through a chasmless drop, you're kind of smiling a lot. And this doesn't require huge power either, and I'd love to see it on more systems. I think it does sit on the Switch, but I'm not too sure of a Sony release. Yeah, I've just checked it, and dang, it is Microsoft and Switch only. So apologies everybody looking at how great this is, but maybe a Switch is an option. Please don't unsubscribe. Yeah, I don't think there'll be any arguments here with having It Takes Two at number 2. It's a spiritual sequel to A Way Out, which again appeared on a recent list and does have a lot of puzzles in it, but this is unbelievably good still, and fired up the other day as well, and just thought, wow, this all still feels very fresh.
Get inside!
What Yusuf always manages, and by the way, this is compulsory to player. You cannot play this game on your own. You need either someone in the room with you or someone online. Back to my point, the designers really look after both of the players. They think about the problems and puzzles involving everyone all the time, or even someone having some sort of integral role that switches out the gameplay models. You're never really sure what's coming up or what's going to involve you, and you get given a really cool nail gun, which is an added bit of range. There's no real baddies to take care of, but there's so many grand set pieces and huge sections of map that just look amazing still. This game is getting on a bit, and I really want to hear more from the studio on what's coming up. Okay, my number 1 choice for greatest puzzler local co-op is of course Trine 4. I am aware that there's a 5th game out, haven't looked at it yet, but this has lasted me the longest from that trilogy pack that you could buy at a discounted level, and it looks so damn good still. I'm still involved with this. It's a go-to game when people are new to the genre or you just want to wow someone with an amazing looking side-scrolling puzzler. It's got this sort of tried and tested formula of 3 different characters that you can switch out on the fly, and they dovetail that in with all of the puzzles, so you don't do too much stone turning, you're just looking at different tools for different solutions. And the 4th game offers more than one way to sort of conquer a lot of the puzzles, which I think is a great idea, and uses some quite advanced physics for the time with the swing mechanics and all the gravity that's working in and around the objects. Flawlessly voice acted as well. The production just feels sky high. It's like a AA indie game by a square mile, and it's always sitting on my HD drive. It's something I'll never take off because of its accessibility and the fact that it's huge. It's a lot bigger than those first 3. This also sports more than 2 people on local co-op, and probably should have gone on some previous lists I've put together with side-scrolling platformers. So I feel the game needs to get some attention, and it's incredibly cheap at the moment. I was of course Couch Coop, and I do look forward to seeing you all down there. Please give my new Robocop video some love. I will put the links in the description.